नहीं किया ना?
नहीं, हाँ हो गया, स्टार्ट हो गया ऑलरेडी।
जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी,
कुंज बिहारी,
जय राधा माधवा कुंज श्रीमद्भागवतम की श्रील प्रभुपाद की। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
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 नारायणं नमस्कृत्य
नारायणं नमस्कृत्य
नरं चैव नरोत्तमं
नरं चैव नरोत्तमं
देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं
देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं
ततो जयमुदीरये।
ततोदयमुदीरये।
नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु
नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु
नित्यं भागवत सेवया।
नित्यं भागवत सेवया।
भगवत्य उत्तमश्लोके
भगवते उत्तमश्लोके
भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी।
भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी।
Reading from Canto 5 titled The Creative Impetus, Chapter 1 titled The Activities of Maharaj Prabhupada, text number 25 and 26. So I'll be reciting the text and reading the translation for text number 25. Then I'll be again reciting the text, then reading the word-to-word meaning of text 26, which all of us can repeat. Agni Dredha Majihva Yajnabahu Mahavira Hiranyareto Gritaprishtha Savana Medhatithi Vitihotra Kavaya Iti Sarva Evagni Namanaha. The 10 sons of Maharaj Priyavrata were named as Agnidhra, Idmajihva, Yajnabahu, Mahavira, Hiranyareta, Ghritapristha, Savana, Medhatithi, Vitihotra, and Kavi. These are also the names of Agni, the fire god. एतेषां कविर्महावीरः सवन इति त्रय आसन्न ऊर्ध्वरेतसस्त आत्मा विद्यायामर्भभावात् आराभ्य कृत परिचयाः पारमहंस्यम् एवाश्रमम् अभजन्. What the word meanings? Etesham, of these, Kavihi, Kavi, Mahaviraha, Mahavira, Savanaha, Savan, Iti, thus, Trayaha, three, Asan, were, Urdhvaretasaha, completely celibate, they, Atma Vidyayam, in transcendental knowledge, Arabhavavat, from childhood, Arabhya, beginning, Krita Parichayah, very well versed, Param Hamsyam, of the highest spiritual perfection of human life. Eva, certainly. Ashramam, the order. Abhajan, executed. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. Three among these 10, namely Kavi, Mahavira, Savana, lived in complete celibacy. Thus trained in brahmachari life from the beginning of childhood, they were very conversant with the highest perfection known as the Paramahamsa Ashrama. Purport. The word Urdhva Retasaha in this verse is very significant. Urdhva Retaha refers to one who can control sex life and who, instead of wasting semen by discharging it, can use this most important substance accumulated in the body to enrich the brain. One who can completely control sex life is able to work wonderfully with his brain, especially in remembering. The students who simply hear Vedic instructions once from their teacher could remember them verbatim without needing to read books which does not exist in the former times. Another significant word is Arbhabhavat, which means from the very beginning of the childhood, or from the very childhood. Another meaning is from being very affectionate to children. In other words, Paramahamsa life is dedicated for the benefit of others. Just as a father sacrifices many things out of affection for his son, great saintly persons sacrifice all kinds of bodily comforts for the benefit of the human society. In this connection, there is a verse concerning the 6 Goswamis. Tyaktva tunam shesha mandalapati shrenim sada tuchhavat Bhutvadina Ganesha Kau Karunaya Kaupina Kantashritau. Because of their compassion for the poor fallen souls, the 6 Goswamis gave up their exalted positions as ministers and took the vows as mendicants, thus minimizing their bodily wants as far as possible They each accepted only a loin cloth and a begging bowl. Thus they remained in Vrindavan to execute the orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by compiling and publishing various Vaishnava literatures. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahalalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Sapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sandhubhya Evacha Patidaram Padebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatarine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Harihi Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. So we are reading about the Vanshavali of Maharaj Priyavrat. We saw that Maharaj Priyavrat has entered the family life. In yesterday's verse we saw the full clarity. Not only he took up the administration of the entire universe, but he fulfilled the obligation as the ruler of a universe by getting married also. So Lord Chaitanya had told that one who lives in a house deriving some kind of salary or money should definitely have a wife. In previous purport it was mentioned that he could have carried out Maharaj Priyavrat could have carried out the responsibilities as a brahmachari. But then he did not do so. Because for king, it is necessary for a king to leave behind an heir to the throne, so that the kingdom could continue. Now this was not just a seminal line of succession, but this was a Rajarishi line of succession. Great personalities who follow the Vedic scriptures, who follow the Varnashram Dharma, and who follow the rules and regulations of Grihastha life, they give birth to great children. The child, in one lecture I was hearing, the child is a replica of the mind of the father and the mother both. That's why Prabhupada often tells in the purports that the consciousness which the parents have during uniting, that determines the consciousness of the forthcoming child. So therefore in ISKCON there is a ceremony called as Garbhadan Samskar, where one tries to take blessings from the Vaishnavas by inviting them to their house, serves them nicely, takes their blessings. There is no secrecy. And then they chant. In ISKCON, the standard is to chant 51 rounds, and then they unite. So in that consciousness, where Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I am that sex life which is devoid of, which is in line with the religious principles. which is not devoid of the religious principles. So this is called religious life. Religious life means understanding that I am not the body, I am a spirit soul, and avoiding those things which are not conducive for spiritual life. So the body likes 4 things: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. The more one does it, the more the body consciousness increases. So if one can avoid these things as much as possible, engage in these things according to the Vedic rules and regulations, then the spiritual realizations become possible and easy to obtain. That's why Srila Prabhupada said that sense gratification and Krishna consciousness go ill together. You cannot be gratifying your senses, yet at the same time thinking I'll become advanced in Krishna consciousness. Not possible. So one has to give up, especially sex life. It is something which captures one in the bodily conception of life for various lifetimes. In the Puranas, there is mentioning of how great sages, even after, or great people, Kshatriyas, even after giving up their family life, when they went to the forest, they were absorbed or trying to practice Vanaprastha and Sannyas kind of life, but still they could not give up the thought of their wife. It's mentioned in the Puranic scriptures. So family life, Prabhupada says that there is attachment to various things. Attachment to, let's say, money, attachment to society, attachment to palace or whatever. But amongst all these kinds of attachments, the strongest attachment is the attachment to family life. It is very, very difficult to break. So, and the thing which entangles one in family life is this sex life. However, Priyavrat Maharaj was a great personality. He had always taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, and one who is under the shade of the lotus feet of the Lord is unaffected by such kind of entanglements. And we will see in the future verses how he was unaffected. Although he appeared to be a hen-pecked husband, it appeared to the world that he was fully under the control of his wife. But in his heart, he was always remembering the lotus feet of Krishna. Just like we see the pastimes of Krishna. He had so many wives, 16,108 wives to name at least. And every wife used to think that he is completely controlled by me. Every wife used to think that my husband listens to me, whatever I say he will do. That kind of feeling every wife had, because Krishna was so gentle with all his wives. He was a gentleman husband. But the reality was that he was completely detached from all of them. That's why in the chapter, the queens of Krishna meet Draupadi, or Draupadi meets the queens of Krishna. These queens, they say that we are wives in just namesake. Krishna is the least, he's not at all attached to us. He's just there with us to fulfill the family obligations as a husband, otherwise he is not attached to us. And these wives are not ordinary people. They were the internal potency of Krishna. These wives themselves were free of lust. And when they used to make feminine gestures, that would not affect Krishna. That's why Krishna is Indrajit or Jitendriya. So, devotees of Krishna are also like that. Yesterday I was reading a purport, and that Srila Prabhupada was telling that God is free from duality. He is free from happiness and distress. When he protects the devotees, he is happy. When he kills the demons, that time also he is blissful. So he is free from the happiness and distress. He is always in the Atmaram, complete blissful knowledge and eternal situation. Satchidanand position. And then immediately next line Srila Prabhupada wrote that the devotees of Krishna are also in that position. And he gave the examples of the gopis. He said that when Krishna was personally there in Vrindavan, the gopis were very happy and blissful in the association of Krishna. And when Krishna and Balram left for Mathura, at that time gopis were blissful in separation with Krishna. So Prabhupada is explaining, just like God is always blissful in all circumstances, similarly devotees of Krishna are always blissful in all circumstances. How? because devotees of Krishna are always meditating on the lotus feet of Krishna. They have got hold onto the lotus feet of Krishna, and so therefore they never fall down and they never fall into the clutches of Maya. So Priyavrat Maharaj is in that category. Irrespective of what appears. For example, when somebody is following the instructions of Guru and Krishna, they may appear to be doing very materialistic activities. Prabhupada gives an example that here is a man who's trying to run behind the municipal authorities, trying to get sanction for a land, and then he goes behind the architects to get a plan for building his skyscraper, and then he works with the contractors, and then he runs behind to buy the cement and all the other bricks and other raw materials. It's a very materialistic kind of not suitable for thinking about Krishna. However, Prabhupada gives an example that if a devotee tries to do this, he'll be doing the same thing. He'll be going to municipal office, he'll be trying to get the no objection certificate, he'll be trying to get the land and then run behind the contractors, cement bricks. But this activity done by the same activity done by a devotee is a Krishna conscious activity because he is doing it for Krishna. And the same activity by this karmi is not a Krishna conscious activity because he is doing it for his sense gratification. So the activity is same, only when the consciousness is dovetailed in Krishna, then the whole activity becomes Krishna conscious. So the whole world is mad behind the opposite gender. The whole world has become a slave of the opposite gender. So it is difficult for them to save their life and think of Krishna and dedicate to the lotus feet of Krishna. Seemingly, when a devotee also gets into this kind of a situation, he may appear to be doing the same things. Normal man is buying car, devotee is also buying car. Normal man is going to holiday, devotee is also going to holiday. Normal man is producing children, devotee is also producing children. Normal man is doing some things, devotee is also doing some things. Normal man is celebrating marriage anniversary, devotee is also celebrating marriage anniversary. But the normal man by doing all these things is going towards hell. But the devotee doing all these things is going towards Krishna. Because the normal man is doing it for his sense gratification. The normal man is doing it with an Ishwar bhava. Or the materialistic man is trying to do it without knowledge of the real purpose of life. But a devotee of Krishna is doing these things in a disinterested and an obligatory way. Without even anybody letting know of his real interest, real thought process in his mind. Just like a lady who has a paramour is always thinking about the paramour or the other person, but is very expertly serving in the house so that the husband and the in-laws, they don't doubt her. Nobody comes to know also, but in the back of her mind she is always thinking of the paramour. So similarly, a person in family life who is a sincere practitioner of Krishna consciousness will very nicely execute the duties of family life. But in the back of his mind, he will always be thinking of Krishna. And in that way, he will be able to practice the highest state of Krishna consciousness. So this consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. And Priyavrat Maharaj is displaying that. And he produced 10 children, the names of whom were Agnidhra, Idma Jihva, Yajna Bahu, Mahavira, Hiranyareta, Ghrita Prishtha, Savana, Medhatithi, Vitihotra, and Kavi. So these are the 10 names also of fire god. The fire demigod also has these names. And all these names were given to the 10 sons of Maharaj Priyavrat. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also had 10 sons. And then he was praying that give me a son who can spread the message of God consciousness very boldly. So therefore, he got Krishna Prasad, Jagannath Prasad, whom he named as Vimla Prasad, who was later known as His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. So on the same lines we can see, Priyavrat Maharaj, who had spent manvantaras in celibacy, when time came, we will later see that he later hands over the various 3 sons became celibate. So 7 remain. So he divided the world, the Bhumandala, in 7 parts and gave them the kingdom of those 7 areas. So it was needed. You need at least 7 sons to rule the whole Bhumandala. Otherwise, how you will manage the affairs? So Maharaj Prabhupada was very exemplary in that way. These sons were not produced for his son's gratification. These sons were produced to serve Krishna. To serve Krishna, these sons were produced. Now in the next verse, the highlight is those 3 sons who became celibates. So 3 among these 10, namely, okay, one question comes, why in Srimad Bhagavatam, where we are about to discuss pure devotional service, dharma projita kaitavo atra paramo nirmatsaranam satam, where only pure devotional services has to be discussed, why these names are coming, Agnidra, Idmajiva, Yagnibhav? How will I progress in Krishna consciousness by reading these names? So the answer is, it is necessary to say these names. For a subject matter or for a treatise or for a composition to be called as Puran, it is mandatory to contain genealogical details. If you read, what are the characteristics of a Puran? There are many characteristics of a Puran. We are reading the Bhagavad Mahapuran. So one of the characteristics of the Puran is that it should contain the family tree or the full detail of the genealogical table. That is the meaning of history. So if a Puran does not contain the genealogical tree or the family tree, then it disqualifies the criteria of being a Puran. So for that purpose, it has been put here. And apart from that, Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. Anything in relation to Krishna is very important. If you read the first chapter of Gita, we are doing daily evening classes in Gita, you will see here, the verses are telling who is standing where, who is blowing which conch, who is holding what, who is saying whom to what. This is not pure devotional service. How will I benefit by knowing who is holding which conch? How will I benefit what Duryodhana said to his spiritual master Dronacharya? How will I benefit to know how are the arrangements of the army on both the sides? How will this help me at the time of the death? The answer is because it is all in relationship with Krishna, so it is going to help me. The Acharyas have explained also in detail. In the Bhagavad Gita, other than the conch shell of Krishna, 5 other conch shells have been named. So the Acharyas explained that only these people who are holding the conch shells, whose conch shells have been named, only they survive. All others whose conch shell is not named, they all die. Why? Because Krishna was on their side. So therefore, their conch shells also became glorious because they were in relationship with Krishna. And they are going to survive because they are in relationship with Krishna. So in this way, if you see all those initial verses, they have a very deep significance in Krishna consciousness. This gives us a message that if we also having Krishna in our hearts and minds, what is the job of a conch shell when you blow a conch shell? That is a proclamation, that is an announcement. Yes, we are going to come and we are going to do something on behalf of Krishna. So that is a glorious announcement. So similarly, when we also make announcement that yes, we are coming out to make you Krishna conscious. We are coming out to celebrate Janmashtami. We are coming out to do book distribution. We are coming out to do Harinam Sankirtan. And we are doing this all in the name of Krishna for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. That is like blowing a conch shell. So just like these 5 people whose conch shell was named and they did it with a sincere desire to please Krishna, were saved by Krishna. So if we also announce the activities of Krishna consciousness and carry out very nicely, then we will also be saved by Krishna in the time of death. So by that verse which tells the names of the conch shells, this is the learning which we can get. And how it is important for Krishna consciousness. Just like I proved just now that verse which contains names of conch shell is also very transcendently important for our spiritual life. So similarly, if you will understand, go into the depth of these verses, reciting the names of the 10 sons of Maharaj Priyavrat is very important for our Krishna consciousness. So we just did that. And now, 3 amongst these 10, namely Kavi, Mahavir and Savana, lived in complete celibacy. Thus trained in brahmachari life from the beginning of childhood, they were very conversant with the highest perfection known as the Paramahamsa Ashrama. So one of the biggest distractions to spiritual life is sex life. Especially that which is done for sense enjoyment and not for serving Krishna. Atmendriya Priti Ichha Tari Bole Kam Atmendriya Priti Vancha Tari Bole Kam Krishnendriya Priti Ichha Dhare Premna. Whatever activity which is done for my own sense gratification, that is lust. And then whatever activity is done for the pleasure of Krishna, that is love. So this is the definition of love and lust. And there is a huge difference between love and lust. One of the main reasons why the spirit soul remains in the material world is because of the body consciousness. And one of the main reasons why the body consciousness lingers is sex life. Once Akbar asked Birbal that in what circumstances one can give up the desire for sex life. Or at what age one will give up the desire for sex life. So Birbal said, it's very difficult to give up the desire for sex life. Akbar said, what are you saying? When one is nicely married and has seen the ups and downs in life, and when he has become old, why will he think about sex life? So Birbal said that let's do an experiment. Forget about a person who is old, let's go to a person who is about to die. And then we'll examine. So Birbal told that while you are coming, you bring your youngest daughter also with you. So Akbar, Birbal and the youngest daughter, they entered the house of a dying man. So when Akbar entered, the dying man did not bother to salute him because he was in too much pain. He just acknowledged him by raising his hand like this. When Birbal came, he didn't bother only. Somebody has come. But when he heard the sound of the anklets coming into the room, that dying man who has multiple organ failures already, he was looking at that beautiful girl. And just like few people are smiling right now, he was also smiling. That is sex desire. It's very, very difficult to give. Prabhupada gives an example of an old man in Paris who is 70 years old and he goes to the nightclub and pays $50 for entering the nightclub and then pays more and more for other services. And Prabhupada says, why? He's asking, why? Why? Because the lusty desire is there. So it is very, very difficult. A person who is defeated by lusty desire has no hope to attain the lotus feet of Krishna. In the Nectar of Instruction, first verse, they say that tongue, belly and genitals are in one straight line. So if one can control their tongue, there is a good chance that their belly and genitals will also be controlled. Jivera lalasa yai iti uti dhai, shishnodar parayana Krishna nahi pai. One who is trying to satisfy his jivva or tongue and running around here and there, they become Shishnodar Parayana. Shishna means genitals, Udar means stomach. So their mind is ruled by their genitals and belly. Belly rules the mind, genital rules the mind. Shishnodar Parayana. They are not Narayan Parayana. They are Shishnodar Parayana. So Krishna nahi. We can never get Krishna in their life. So it is very, very important to work over this sex desire. Otherwise it's very, very difficult to attain Krishna. Krishna is obtained only by akinchanas. People who have raised that consciousness, Krishna is called as akinchana vitta. Only such a person who has reached a consciousness that everything around me is Krishna's property. And everything should be used in Krishna's service. And my only property is Krishna's lotus feet. One who has this consciousness can only with feeling say Jai Radha. Otherwise it's not possible. If one's mind is entangled in the opposite gender, it is absolutely impossible to attain the lotus feet of Krishna. So in this verse, it is being told in the purport. So Srila Prabhupada chooses to glorify this one single discipline of brahmacharya. There are many good qualities. There are many good qualities, auspicious qualities, but amongst them Srila Prabhupada chooses to glorify this aspect of brahmacharya. What is that? The word urdhva retasaha is very significant. Urdhva retaha refers to one who can control sex life and who, instead of wasting semen by discharging it, can use this most important substance accumulated in the body to enrich the brain. One who can completely control sex life is able to work wonderfully with his brain, especially in remembering. The students who simply hear Vedic instructions once from their teacher could remember them verbatim without needing to read books, which therefore did not exist in the former times. So before Kali Yuga there were no books only, Baba. So how will people read? Everyone was a Shrutidhar. Simply they would hear once and they would remember for the rest of life. From this one single statement, what can you conclude? That sex life was minimal or practically non-existent in the previous yugas. Did you understand this? Prabhupada is saying that one who can control his sex life can work wonderfully with his brain, especially in remembering. That means if one engages in more sex life, they cannot remember anything. So if one is able to remember everything only once after hearing from the spiritual master, that means they are completely abstaining from sex life. So therefore in Satyuga, the population, in order to increase the population, they used to go for doing tapasya. Now if we tell some young couple, okay, you increase the population, theek chalo, immediately. But in previous yugas, they were asked to increase population, they would wait for another 40,000 years doing tapasya. That was the kind of advancement. That was the kind of engagement which people had in those days. So this is very clear that sex life was very meager in those days. That's why not every man in the previous yugas, not all men would marry also. I'll tell you a pastime by which this will become clear. This is a pastime from Ramayana. So once Lord Ram, Mother Sita and Lakshman were walking in the Dandakaranya. And Mother Sita passed a comment on Lord Ram. Why do you always carry this dhanush, this bow? Such a passionate weapon. Look at this forest. Such a peaceful environment. Simply by you carrying the bow, the serenity of this environment is destroyed by your passionate bow. I never see you using it only. Do you even know how to use it? Simply carrying all the time. Lord Ram heard all this and he did not reply. But he heard this very nicely. Then, immediately Shurpanakha came. And then that incident of cutting the nose of Shurpanakha happened. So following Shurpanakha came Khada and Dushan with, I think 14,000 or 1,40,000, I think 14,000 soldiers came. So at that time Lakshman said, my dear Lord, these demons are coming, why don't you go inside? With Mother Sita, I'll take care. He said, no, you go inside with Mother Sita and take care of her. So my dear Lord, these are low-class demons. Lakshman, this is my family matter. You please go inside with Mother Sita and take care of her. And then it is said that in less than 1 hour, Lord Ram killed all 14,000 demons single-handedly, and not even a drop of sweat came on his forehead. So when Mother Sita saw Lord Ram using the bow like this, after the battle was over, she came out running with a flower garland. And she immediately garlanded Lord Ram and touched his feet. And she said that you are so glorious with the bow. If my father Janak Maharaj would have seen you, he would have married my other 3 sisters also with you. So this was the mentality. Bottom line which I am trying to say here is, don't focus on family affairs. Focus on the point that Janak Maharaj, if he would have seen Lord Ram like that, he would have married his other sisters also. The point here is that in earlier ages, not everyone would marry. Many people would remain celibate. So if they would find one qualified man, and if someone has 10 daughters, they would think, why, who will find another 10 qualified men? They do so. That's why, great personalities like Maharaj Dashrath, they had so many wives. You see all the great qualified people, they had many, many wives, because it was difficult in those times to find a very qualified man for their daughter. So whenever they would find one qualified man, they do. And that qualified man was so qualified that he could maintain so many wives also, without being partial also. So, the point which I am trying to say is that in the previous ages, being an Urdhva Retaha was very normal and very nice also. And those who were Urdhva Retaha, they could do various great things. So there are 7 things in the body which should remain within the body and not unnecessarily come out from the body, like blood, bone marrow. And according to Ayurveda, there are 7 ingredients in the body, and the most subtle and the most refined and the most, concentrated, condensed production of the body is the semen. If someone can simply retain this, they will have all good health. And along with all good health, there are some other effects also. Long life is one of the effects. Health is one of the effects. Some kind of aura or tejas or glow is another effect. Name and fame is also one effect. And Prabhupada gives the example of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi. He says that why he was able to, determination is also one of the effects. One who has controlled his sex desire is very determined. And one who has not been able to control, they will not be able to be determined in life. Prabhupada gives the example of Gandhiji. He says that why he was able to sustain this Quit India movement or freedom struggle for 40 years. Because at the age of 32, after producing 4 children, he gave up married life. He meant that he gave up sex life. So because he was not engaging with his wife in that kind of a relationship, so he had the determination to continue the freedom struggle and lead the whole country for the next 40 years. So Prabhupada gives an example. That because he was a saintly person, free from sex life, so he became very famous also. And people of the country started following him as Bapu. And then he used his name and fame to drive the freedom struggle for 40 years. This kind of determination is only possible for people who are in this category. Otherwise, it's not possible. This is a true example actually. I've heard the name of a sportsman who was a very nice boxer, Muhammad Ali. Whenever he used to have a tournament, 2 months before the tournament, he used to send his wife away. I want to focus now. And he used to win. So it is this is a very, very potential thing actually, Urdhva Retaha. If one is really wanting to use their brain cells to understand the intricacies of Krishna consciousness, it is important. Brahmacharya is very important. That is why in the Vedic system, first 25 years, complete Brahmacharya. First, make your, Srila Prabhupada once commented that if one can remain a Brahmachari for 25 years of their life, their brain becomes very fertile to understand Krishna consciousness. When he made this statement, the disciples were looking down like this. And then Prabhupada said, even if you chant Hare Krishna, still everything will be alright, doesn't matter. Then everybody became happy. So what does this mean? Although Brahmacharya as a discipline is one of the most rewarding disciplines in life, in the material realm, but ultimately, Brahmachari is also a bodily designation. If one is very proud, I am a brahmachari, then they'll again be cheated. Example is, in Lord Chaitanya pastime, we see that there was a brahmachari who used to only drink milk. He came to see the night Sankirtan in Srivasangan one day. He was not allowed. And Lord Chaitanya told that simply by drinking milk, if one could attain love of God, then it was not possible. But then when he developed some devotional sentiments in his heart, that I am so fallen, I cannot enter and see the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya scolded me and threw me out of the room. I deserve this. When he became humble and repentant like that, then Lord Chaitanya called him. Please come. One who is meek and humble can attain the mercy of the Lord. But one who is a very proud brahmachari, he cannot attain the mercy of the Lord. However, brahmacharya combined with meekness and humility leads one to Golok Vrindavan. Because if one is having a very simple life and at the same time under the directions of Guru and Gauranga is able to sincerely practice Krishna consciousness, then their progress will be super fast, rocket speed progress. Therefore, Prabhupada would say he would want all his disciples to first practice brahmacharya. And if one is not able to do that, then okay, you be peaceful, take a wife and be happy as Grihastha. That was his statement. But in times of Prabhupada, everybody was fully dedicated to Prabhupada. Actually, there was no difference between a brahmachari and a Grihastha when Srila Prabhupada was around. They were all simply serving Prabhupada. That's why Prabhupada made once a statement that there is no difference between my grihasthas and my sannyasis. But now this is not the truth. Now this is not correct. Now there is a lot of difference between the sannyas order and the grihastha order. Because that much dedication to Srila Prabhupada and his movement is not there anymore. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada is very nicely glorifying that if possible, everybody should be an Urdhvareta. Whether you are in family life or in ashram life or in sannyas life or vanprastha life, try to be an Urdhvareta. Urdhvareta means when the semen doesn't get discharged, then the semen instead of flowing downward, Urdhva, it starts flowing upward. And when it reaches your brain, then you come in the category of 4 Kumaras. Sanak, Sanatan, Sanandan and Sanat Kumar. Those who are brahmacharis, they can appreciate the teachings of Rupa and Raghunath. And those who can appreciate the teachings of the 6 Goswamis, they can understand who is Radha and who is Krishna. Otherwise, it's not possible. Now, in the next category, a very important characteristic of renounced life is being discussed. Every renunciant should practice this. What is that? Paramahamsa life is dedicated for the benefit of others. In fact, why only renounced order? Grihasthas should also practice this. Just as the father sacrifices many things out of affection for his son, great saintly persons sacrifice all kinds of bodily comforts for the benefit of the human society. In this connection, there is a verse concerning the 6 Goswamis. Tyaktva turnam ashesha mandalapati shrenim sada tutshavat bhutva dina ganesha kau karunaya kaupina kanthashritau. Now, why did the 6 Goswamis do this? They were ashesha mandalapati. Ashesh means that which cannot be counted or which is very, very great. Mandala means great kingdoms. And they were pati, they were Ashesh Mandal, they were kingdom, they were rulers of great kingdoms. Just like Srila Prabhupada said when his movement came in the New York Times newspaper, he said that this article marked the beginning of my movement. Why? Because the New York Times was the most important newspaper of the world. Probably now also it is one of the most important newspapers of the world. If your name comes in New York Times, it means you've made it. So in those days, Bengal was the most happening place in the Indian subcontinent and rather the world also. So anything which happens in Bengal, so Lord Chaitanya actually appeared in the most important place of the planet at one point of time. So whatever happens in Bengal, the whole world follows. That was the situation. And in that circumstances, being the rulers of Bengal means practically they were controlling the whole country or the whole Indian subcontinent. Most powerful people. But they gave up everything. Why did they give up? They could have simply continued also. But why did they give up? Tyaktva turnam ashesha mandala pratim shrenim sada tuchshavat. And how did they give up? As if it is nothing. Just like when you pass stool in the morning and then you just flush it off. You don't care for it. You don't get attached to it. And after flushing it off, you don't think about it also. Tuchshavat. So similarly, they gave it up. Tyaktva turnam ashesha mandala pati shrenim sada tuchshavat. Bhutva deena ganesha kau karunaya. So the people, in the words of Prahlad Maharaj, the materialistic people, who have no concern to understand what is the aim of life and how to go back home, back to Godhead, and how to serve Krishna, who have forgotten the purpose of their life, for their purpose, karunaya, kaupina kanthasya. They only took a begging bowl and one loin cloth. They were simply wearing the loin cloth and moving around here and there because they didn't want to waste time in wearing anything else. Lord Chaitanya ordered them, Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipunau Sadharma Sanstapaka. You go to Vrindavan, excavate the pastime places of Shri Radha and Krishna's pastimes, and write the devotional literatures which will guide the humanity for the rest of times. The Kali Yuga mind cannot read the Vedic literature. Vedvyas saw the Kali Yuga mind is so corrupted, let me at least compile the Vedic literature. But when Lord Chaitanya came, at that time the mind had become so disturbed that they could not read the Vedic literature also. And now in the Vedic literature, there is a treasure hunt for bhakti. Yes, that's why Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Traigunya Vishya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. The Vedic literature deals with the three modes of material nature. You rise above the three modes of material nature. So bhakti in the Vedic literature is like a treasure hunt. The huge section of the Vedas is only talking about Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Jnana Yoga. But Bhakti Yoga is not very prominent. That's why Srila Vedvyas had to write the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is complete. He took the treasure from everywhere and then put it in one place. But then people are not willing to read Bhagavatam also. 18,000 verses, who will read that? So the six Goswamis, what they did, they read the Puranas, they read the Upanishads, they read the various Upanishads, Vedic literature, and they Nana Shastra Vicharanaiko Nipano Sadharma Sanstapaka. Just like when you boil the milk and make rabdi, that's very nice. So similarly, the six Goswamis, understanding the fallen conditioned state of the people of Kali Yuga, they took Bhagavatam and they took other literatures and they took the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and the other Goswamis, and then they made a devotional rabdi or a devotionally condensed presentation of the Vedic literature, thinking that at least if this much also they read, that is enough. Look at the Nectar of Devotion written by Rupa Goswami. Simply if one can understand Nectar of Devotion, they can understand Radha and Krishna. Simply if you can go through the Nectar of Instruction, you can become a guru. Simply if you read the Manashiksha, you'll understand what it means to chant Hare Krishna. And over and above that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has been even more merciful. He has written some poems which has condensed all the compositions of the six Goswamis also. Simply if you sing one Vaishnava bhajan, you are surcharged with Krishna consciousness. You are in touch with Krishna. So this is the purpose of renunciants. Why should one take renounced order of life if they cannot dedicate their life for the service of humanity, for the service of the fallen conditioned souls? Then there is no meaning of renunciation. Now there are Mayavadis. That's why renunciation of Mayavadis is in many ways simply a waste of time. Because they are simply saying, I am God. they are not able to give the devotional mellow to anybody, I feel sorry for them. And I'm not feeling sorry because of my own opinion. I'm walking in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj said, what to speak about Mayavadi, he was talking about those sages or those transcendentalists who take a Maun Vrata and they go to the solitary places and they practice Krishna consciousness and they are worried about only their liberation. So Prahlad Maharaj said that I don't like those people who go to the solitary places, practice Krishna consciousness and are worried about their own liberation, taking Maun Vrata. They are not worried about others. Prahlad Maharaj said, I would rather live in the city and practice Krishna consciousness so that all the rascals around me can learn how to chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
And in that way I want to practice Krishna consciousness. Now Prahlad Maharaj comes in the category of Mahajan. Each Mahajan is a renunciant in their own authority. Similarly, each devotee of Lord Chaitanya is Vairagya Pradhan. Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. So Lord Chaitanya came to show how to practice bhakti by following Vairagya. So therefore we see whether Grihasthas or Brahmacharis or Sannyasis or children who were associates of Lord Chaitanya were all great Vairagis. Why Vairagis? Because they have got the Anurag of Krishna. Hence Vairag from the material world. One who has tasted Krishna, they will not find any taste or any beauty in anything else. When you look at the photo of 6 Goswamis, you will feel they are doing so much austerity. They are not eating also properly. They are not sleeping also properly. So much difficult life. But actually Srila Prabhupada revealed that they were the happiest men in the whole creation. If there is an ocean of nectar, if there is an ocean of bliss, then the 6 Goswamis are like doing scuba diving in that ocean. They are completely immersed in that ocean of Krishna consciousness. So, Srila Prabhupada was his disciples would feel that he was the happiest man. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada said that the 6 Goswamis were happiest men. So anybody who walks into this path of devotion to Krishna, trying to become a Goswami, following the principles of Brahmacharya, and then dedicating their life for the purpose of helping the rest of humanity, leading a life in such a selfless way, teaching the mission, teaching Gauravani Pracharite, teaching the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, they will, what is their reward? The service is their reward. They will get first of all, they will come very close to Lord Chaitanya. And one who is very close to Lord Chaitanya can understand who is Radha and Krishna. And the bliss which they will be experiencing cannot be described in words. So simply by serving in such capacity, according to this verse, the Paramahamsa Ashrama, they will be completely free from the dualities of this material world. They will be in this world but not of this world. And when they will chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, their heart will go out for Krishna when they will chant like this. And their chanting will make the whole world chant Hare Krishna. So on that note, I would like to conclude today's discussions. Thank you very much. Do we have time for questions or comments? ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, हरे कृष्ण।